We are back with Gabe Lee. The new album is Drink the River, and we went from the darkness of Marigold to really the joy of Even Jesus Got the Blues. Um, how how do road weary folks like the character in that song and the proper churchgoers in the front pews connect and find that common ground?
Yeah, I think that is definitely the crux, and I don't know if the song necessarily provides an answer. The wanderer and the drifters that the this character represents are always seemingly, stereotyped as folks who are seeking their own destruction. And while that certainly may be true at times for folks who find themselves pitted against addiction um, and other vices, um, and even homelessness. I mean, there there's not always a home for those kind of folks, and there's not always support. Uh, how can they find themselves? How can they dig themselves out of a hole? If they don't even have a shovel. So I would say that the folks who are it's more a message, I think, for the folks who are in the pews, and the folks who choose to lay judgment when they have no basis for their claims, and that's simply the world we live in. It's a great big world. It's hard to understand at times, and sometimes it is just easier to make your own assumptions on the world, and that way we can kind of like rest at ease in our comfort or whatever situation we may be. We watch movies, we watch the news, we read the paper, we think, my goodness, isn't that terrible? Thank God it's not me. While that is, I think, a really natural thing for most folks, in the modern day, I think there's something definitely wrong with that because it's uh, I don't think it's necessarily, worth congratulating yourself about whether or not you're better off than somebody. But we all think that in the back of our head, and I just think that there's a certain switch that might need to turn for folks to consider the world as more of a community and not, different factions and different classes uh, who are just separated by one bad decision. No, it's not. I don't think that that's how people fall out of communities. There's always, I think, opportunity for support, um, and it's just about, I think, first of all, wrapping your head around the fact that this person that you see, panhandling or at the side of an interstate, asking for help, that person is you. Um, and we need to be reminded about that.
That is pretty profound. What do you mean when you say in the song that even Jesus has got the blues?
Again, directed really at the folks in the front of the pew, and of course, we're using a very Christian motif. Uh, and I think just the language, at least uh, coming from a Southern writer, the language of the Bible is powerful and it's accessible. Uh, so regardless of what your background may be, um, a message such as "Even Jesus Got the Blues" uh, would hopefully spark ideas of, hey, even the most saintly, perfect person, even an angel, right, or a god, uh, is uh, is not free from burdens. Uh, Again, continuing to remind folks that you're not alone in your darkness. We all have it, and uh, part of my responsibility, I think, as a writer in this craft is to make sure folks are chewing on that and not just sweeping their issues under the rug or blaming it on somebody else.
Yeah, the Bible is just this fascinating thing to me because I have seen it used to justify just about everything in the world.
Yeah,
Um, but I really, really appreciate when people use it to justify sort of the values that you're talking about in this song, the love and acceptance part, the everyone deserves forgiveness part, the community part.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. As a writer and as someone who's been in literature and journalism, texts, literary texts are used to oftentimes are used to make a stand, to prove a point, to argue a thesis, right? And sometimes that is as basic as, like your middle school, high school paper. You take a couple points, you say, "This is why my thesis is true," and you have your intro and your conclusion, and that's it. Um, Hooray! But I think what I've been doing within Southern writing and folklore and songwriting, when it comes to the Bible, which again is very powerful and accessible text, especially in the South, because it has its own complete meaning from the rest of the world. I think even the states. Um, I think I like to employ it within my music and lyrics as a method of deconstructing, and that I think serves as a tool for folks to broaden their perspective, to not necessarily hang their hat on the thing that they were taught when they were young, to be critical adults, to think about stories and lyrics um, from as much of an open mind as they did when they were, being educated about Christianity or history or whatever it may be. That these things have little, nuanced motifs within them, and that if you look hard enough, um, there are, even though there are folks who may use the Bible as a text to say, "Hey, you're wrong and I'm right." Well, you're even if you don't subscribe to the Bible. I mean, any text as a writer, again, as an English student, any text can be used to push your own agenda, and that's the power of words and language. So don't discount that.
One last question, not about the lyrics. You have put out a few albums before, and I've liked them, but I haven't been absolutely in love with them. But this one, you changed up your sound a little, more folky, more harmonies. What a great move. Um, why did you make that adjustment in your sound?
Thanks, man. We sorry, my dog was messing with something.
It's okay, my cat has crashed more than a few interviews.
uh, the uh, the process for this record was pretty quick. I mean, I just come off the tail end of the Hometown Kid, and we had gone into more of like a mellow alt rock phase for that, and the production on Drink the River was we just wanted to keep it, not, I don't want to say simple, but we wanted to keep it very roots based. And I have all these pals in Nashville who are extremely well respected bluegrass pickers and players. So for them, it didn't take much to hop in the studio for just a couple days and help create a vibe behind the stories of these songs that would ultimately become this pretty concise but powerful and heartfelt record. And I think a lot of it definitely was simplifying for sure. I had a lot of fun on the last two records with and gaining a lot of experience in the studios of Nashville with great session players, producers, engineers, and all that. And it can be a lot. I mean, when you're working in a big old studio, um, hundreds of microphones, guitar amps, equipment, organ, drum sounds, all of these things, and I think simplifying in a sense of cutting the fat and getting to the point of what these lyrics meant to myself as the writer and what they would mean to others. Uh, the process was definitely making that story, making the stories of each individual song the point of listening to this record, uh, and uh, and not having the distractions of necessarily B3 organ or any synth pads or even electric guitar. I think the only electric thing we have on this record is the pedal steel, um, and the I think the string work from the players that we brought on the record was really beautiful. They did a spectacular job. These guys are incredible at what they do, and it doesn't take them long to hop on and like I said, create a vibe. Uh, the point of the record definitely being the words, and I hope we succeeded in that.
I like to end all my interviews by asking the artist to pick a song that they were not involved in creating that
Mhm.
goes along with the theme of what we talked about. And I would like you to pick a song that shows that kind of love and empathy for community.
You got it. Um, you know, I would I would have to reach way back. Um, if it doesn't have to be contemporary,
Not at all.
um, I would probably say there's a John Prine song, "Speed of the Sound of Loneliness." Um, Either that one, because it references um, just everyday folks living everyday lives, trying to get by, and feeling lonesome. Um, it references folks who uh, might see themselves as going off the deep end a little bit, when all that's really happening is they're just having a bad day, and then they're back to normal again. Uh, Either that song or there's a great Old Crow Medicine Show song called "Take 'Em Away," which is kind of gospely and very bluegrassy as well, and just talks about troubles and how uh, if there's a God out there, to please uh, take them to a better place, right? I think those two songs would uh, lyrically and in their message um, could definitely be in conversation with the same kind of discussion on Drink the River.
Well, I don't think I've ever had a problem with playing John Prine or Old Crow
There you go.
Medicine Show.
All right.
Really, thank you so much.
Thank you, Trevor. Appreciate it.